It's Coach Greg Adams on YouTube. Coach Greg Adams. You can go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Coach Greg Adams. I'm the speaker of truth and the author of The Free Agent Lifestyle.
Coach Greg, before I ask you about you, is there anything you'd like to know about me?
Now, how do you ask such good questions?
Just observing how females move as opposed to what they say.
All right. That's important.
Okay, first question is, what red pill do you?
I probably was always tell people I was red pill about life before I was red pill about women. So I would study kind of what people would consider conspiracies, mistrust, hidden secrets about society and the governments. And so I was always more or less skeptical. And then, of course, when you're a young man in your teens and 20s, you do have some issues understanding women.
What are your thoughts on the current state of the manosphere as opposed to when you first got involved?
The current state, I think it's just been opened up and exposed to more people. And the people who are come in are not really about the space. They're more about trying to maybe change women and change their mindset. And that's probably the wrong approach.
Why do you think the manosphere spends so much time focusing on masculinity rather than misandry?
Interesting. I think masculinity is probably what helps society push forward. And a lot of times masculinity is the one thing people attack to make social change. So masculinity is probably more important than misandry.
Why does the manosphere spend so much time on self-improvement and men grooming themselves to please toxic women that just want to use them and bring nothing to the table?
I think inherently men are aware that women don't bring much to the table. So when the argument is opposite, this sometimes might get men flustered and say women bring nothing to the table.
Where do you hope to see the manosphere in 5 years?
In a healthier position than it is now.
Is there more of a mutual brotherhood between men or a mutual sisterhood between women?
Oh, my goodness. That's not even close. I think men are competitive. There's definitely a hierarchy. So women stay on code to get what they want. So, yeah.
Why are women able to unite and create a standard for men, but men can't unite and create a standard for women?
Well, it helps women. Women inherently need to be able to control the narrative to create standards, right? So, and men are probably weak in order to, men are going to look at it like, if this guy doesn't qualify or have a standard, I can have it and then I'm win.
Why aren't you able to talk about the needs and wants of men without automatically undermining the needs and wants of women?
Women are like children.
Why does it have to be a zero-sum game?
From what perspective?
It's like if men are winning, women are losing. If women are...
Oh, yeah. I think, again, women are like children. They just don't see things as fair, and they need men to change whatever's not fair as opposed to them changing it. Vice versa, it doesn't work.
Who do you think cares more about masculinity, men or women?
Women need masculinity, so women.
Are men conditioned by other men to act a certain way, and why?
Absolutely. Hierarchy. I think the competition between men is definitely going to dictate men change their behavior.
What's the difference between calling a man a beta male and shaming a man for not being a real man?
Oh, man. You have some tough questions. Can you give me that one again?
What is the difference between calling a man a beta male and shaming a man for not being a real man?
Man, what is the wow? Okay, I'm going to say women need to control the narrative to say a man's not a real man. I don't think a man would use that phraseology. They would just call a beta male. So the difference between is what a man would say and what a woman would say.
Why do men even have to be labeled alpha or beta males in the first place?
I don't like the labels, to be honest with you. I think they're, somebody probably studied it and probably somebody debunked it. I don't like the labels.
If being a masculine man means accepting the burden of others, why would anyone want to be a man by that definition?
Tough question. I think inherently men would like to do well by women. So this is why the burden exists.
If being masculine is a natural process, why are men often shamed to be sculpted that way?
Is it a natural progress? I don't think it's a natural progress.
Process, yeah.
I don't think it's a natural process. I don't think masculinity is a natural process. So I would assume that some men fail at it and some men achieve it.
Do you feel the same way about femininity? Is femininity a natural process?
I think it's necessary. I think when you remove the necessity for it, women adapt and they become more masculine.
Why are men expected to sculpt themselves when women don't do the same for men?
Men don't have standards for women.
What's the difference between feminist women shaming men for being men and traditional women shaming men for not being real men?
Man, give it to me one more time.
Okay. What's the difference between feminist women shaming men for being men and traditional women shaming men for not being real men?
Is there a difference between that?
Would that equate modern misandry to feminism and traditional misandry to chivalry?
Yeah, I think both of them, I think to me, just to be honest, are equally dangerous because when women shame men to be real men, it's often in service and to be able to get and receive. I think feminists, on the other hand, use it as a shame of the patriarchy. You have control.
Don't both place women at a status above men?
I don't think so.
Don't both allow women to define the man's masculinity?
Yes.
So wouldn't that be placing women at a status above men?
It could be. It could be, yes. Just to be honest, I think that I think inherently they both want us to give them something.
Just because you're anti-feminist, does that necessarily mean you're pro-men?
No.
Don't anti-feminists often push chivalry, which still places women above men?
Correct.
Why is everyone pushing for traditional gender roles and marriage without first changing the laws? Have you seen the divorce rates?
I don't understand why people do that. I think the laws are the biggest thing that need to change, not the gender roles.
Why are men more focused on self-improvement than men's rights?
Because of, I think, the hierarchy. I think they're going to establish a position where they win and another guy loses. That's the end of it.
How does being masculine help men who are screwed over by the family court system?
Doesn't help at all. Doesn't help at all.
How does being masculine help men who are falsely accused?
Doesn't help at all.
Whether a man is masculine or not, doesn't he still deserve equal justice?
Absolutely.
So once again, why is there so much talk about masculinity rather than men's rights?
That's a good question, yes.
Are women the problem, or are the people influencing women the problem?
The people influencing women are the problem.
Why does the manosphere talk about female nature if men's issues are mostly with modern Western women?
I think modern Western women have been able to manipulate the system more to heighten female nature.
Were women like this in the past, and are women like this overseas?
I think women were like this in the past. They just were not allowed the opportunity to flourish.
So is it female nature or female nurture?
It's a female nature or female nurture. I still think it's female nature. I think the natural capacity for them to want to do things, to disrupt, to add chaos is always going to be present.
Why do people assume that things can't change when history has proven that things have already changed?
True. Some people don't think things can change.
Should we be blaming simps for women's bad behavior?
I don't know why people do that.
Didn't women set the terms that they needed to be served and put on a pedestal, which created simping in the first place?
Correct. Yep.
If this imbalance is created by women, why are we blaming the victim?
Why are we blaming the women?
I mean, wouldn't simps almost be a victim of the standards imposed by women?
Correct. I think, but the women still benefit. So I think they want to protect the simp, if you will.
If sex wasn't a need for men, how would women as a standard manipulate men through sex?
Not at all. It would be impossible.
Why didn't we have all these simps in the past? Where did they all come from?
The simps in the past. I think potentially, I don't think you would be able to simp as much I think there would be some checks and balances with other men.
Aren't simps a byproduct of what feminism has caused?
Potentially, I could see some justification for that.
Should we blame simps the same way we blame parents who spoil their kids?
Yes.
Why does our society shame simps and incels rather than see them as victims of addiction and loneliness?
I think it's the same thing as we shame promiscuous women. So promiscuous women are doing something easy, and simp men are trying to take the easy way out.
Why aren't people addicted to drugs and gambling expected to correct their own illness without help?
I have no idea. I don't see why people call it a disease.
Do women deserve a pass for being hypergamous since they have a shorter window of time to take advantage of their prime years?
I don't mind hypergamy. I think it's a good way to explain things. So yes, they should be able to take advantage of it.
Does a woman's hypergamous nature fuel men to compete with each other?
Yes.
Is competition good or bad for society?
I think it's great.
Why?
I think competition breeds ingenuity, it breeds creativity, and it allows the species. I think the species has thrived based on whatever competition has existed.
Do women deserve a pass for having a hoe phase because of their prime years?
No. No pass.
Do men deserve a pass to exercise their options when they become successful?
Sure.
Do men have more of a problem dating women who earn more, or do women have more of a problem dating men who earn less?
Oh, second one. Women cannot date below them. Absolutely not.
If a woman out-earns her man, who is more likely to feel threatened? The woman for not feeling provided for, or the man for feeling emasculated?
I think the woman is going to feel more threatened anytime a conversation comes up. She's going to feel like he only believes that because I think she's going to project on him feelings.
Do you find it hypocritical when parents advise their sons to avoid gold diggers while also advising their daughters to find a man who will take care of them?
Absolutely. We need to find a middle ground for this conversation.
So isn't hypergamy encouraged in women?
Absolutely.
What does it mean to have game?
It doesn't mean anything. It's a made up phrase.
If women want men to just be themselves, why is approaching women a skill men need to learn? Why does he need game?
Well, women are manipulative, so the whole approaching and talking game, that has nothing to do. We're both manipulating each other.
Why do we keep asking men to have game when approaching women and instead ask why are modern women so unapproachable?
I'm on the side of why are women so unapproachable. I don't think game is the answer.
If women only want to date alpha males, why haven't all the beta males gone extinct?
That's a good question. I think possibly you could look at men in the immediate past had better access to at least get some woman. Today, not so much.
If men only want to sleep with beautiful women, why haven't all the ugly women gone extinct?
Sometimes two attractive people don't create beautiful kids. That's a misconception.
Are women attracted to male dominance?
Absolutely.
What's the difference between being dominant and being controlling?
Whether you're married or not and how ugly you are.
How can a man dominate a woman who doesn't submit to him first? Isn't that controlling?
Correct, yes. Some women make it difficult. Shit testing, they should test no matter what. So you're playing the game.
So why do women often require a man to prove his dominance before she will submit?
Yeah. I mean, she gotta be able to be comfortable that you're gonna be a man of your word.
Isn't the woman exhibiting the ultimate dominance by requiring those terms?
I've heard that question phrased before, and it is true. She's establishing the rules of the relationship. Yep.
I want to try this one. What is a dowry?
I believe it's one of the family members paying, I want to say the bride. No, the father's family paying to the groom's family paying a price for the woman.
It refers to property or money brought by a bride to her husband on their marriage.
Okay, so it's the opposite. Bride price is the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we go from men being compensated for taking on a wife to now men have to pay or work for female attention?
She had value women inherently in that time potentially had more value by creating more children to help with whatever that land or that money that was given to her family for. Yeah.
If women have always been the prize, why did the concept of a dowry ever need to exist in the first place?
You got to keep the society populated somehow.
In other words, how did women go from being property to being the prize?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think there's still. Here's the thing: there's still property. That nothing's changed.
Actually, I'm curious. I'm going to throw this one in real quick. What is the difference between a woman telling a man, "I'm not your property," and a man telling a woman, "I'm not your provider"?
Okay. You want? Did you get it?
Yeah. Do you want me to ask it again?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between a woman telling a man, "I'm not your property," and a man telling a woman, "I'm not your provider"?
That's interesting. I think there's no difference. The difference is the double standard.
In other words, like, why should a man have responsibility without authority?
Correct. I think this is a game that is. This is why we tell men don't play the marriage game, because it's a no-win.
Why are you more likely to see female empowerment in first world countries?
Because there's a sense of security. There's no attacking. Nobody's getting hurt. There's no need for a front line.
So wouldn't that mean that feminism is a first world option?
Absolutely.
Why do women seem to be more unhappy the more free that they are?
Because inherently, women who are left to their own vices tend to believe that the grass is greener on the other side, and it's not true. They don't realize this until later in life, then they settle.
How much of our economy is driven by men buying things to please and impress women?
Almost all of it, 83% for sure, as the data. I think the majority of things that men do and the majority of things that men do as terms to make money is for women.
Would you agree that most consumer spending is geared towards women?
Absolutely.
Would you also agree that the media pushes a campaign of fear and consumption by exploiting men's need for female validation?
Yes.
So why is there so much talk about the exploitation of women, but we never talk about this exploitation of men?
I think because we're in a dominant position. They assume we're in the dominant position.
So why is there so much talk about a gender pay gap, but not a gender spend gap?
Correct. I mean, listen, we live in a world where the woman has to be the victim.
Why do women want to earn as much as men if they still expect men to pay for everything?
I have no idea how this works in their brain, but for some reason, it makes sense.
What are your thoughts on the following statement? Women are born with value, men have to create their value.
It's true. It's overwhelmingly true.
If men are more likely to work for their value, don't they deserve more respect for that?
They do.
If men have to accept that they need to work harder in the dating market, why can't women accept that they need to work harder in the job market?
Goodness. Women are children with breasts.
Why is there no affirmative action for men in the dating market like there is for women in the job market?
Why is there no affirmative action? Yeah, there was affirmative action for men, but the 50s died.
Why does society lower the job requirements for women in the military, firefighters, but women won't lower their dating requirements for men?
They can't benefit. They got to win in the end.
Would you agree that men have an advantage over women in the job market?
I would say yes.
This is just kind of like a different way of asking it. Would you also agree that women have an advantage over men in the dating market?
Absolutely.
If there are government quotas to ensure women get equal employment opportunities, shouldn't there also be quotas to ensure that men get equal dating options?
Well, you can't negotiate attraction. So
If you can't force women to date men they don't want to date, why should companies be forced to hire women they don't want to hire?
this is true, but lawyers.
All right, this is the last one. We're getting towards the end. Okay. Do you think that the solution could be prostitution, the world's oldest institution?
We're already in it, so we're already in full-fledged prostitution.
Isn't it already happening?
It's already happening, yes.
Don't women often look for sugar daddies and men look for trophy wives?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it end simping and shift the sexual marketplace to where women have to compete for the men?
It would make, yeah, absolutely. It would turn things on its head immediately.
Why should men pay for the opportunity to maybe get sex instead of just paying for sex?
I don't understand why people do the former, meaning they pay. I don't see it distinguishing. I see it both the same.
Wouldn't relationships be built on love rather than sex and manipulation?
There would have to be something else if the person gets the sex up front. Yeah.
Wouldn't women be more accountable and make more effort to create loving relationships?
They would be forced to. They would be forced to.
Wouldn't it remove any legal liabilities for men trying to get sex?
I hope that would be the case, but of course, in our generation, they will come up with a way to be victimized about it.
Wouldn't it remove the possibility of rejection?
There would no, not necessarily. I think women would still be somewhat picky.
Wouldn't men be more fulfilled and less angry and violent?
I think that there's something to that. Yeah,
Do you think there would be less rape and sexual assault?
could possibly be.
Wouldn't it flood the market and drive down prices?
Absolutely,
Wouldn't capitalism create competition and make sex cheap and accessible?
it would make it. Yes,
Couldn't it be government regulated and generate tax revenue?
people have done it, so it's for sure.
Can you think of any reasons not to legalize it?
I cannot think of any reason at this point. No,
Why is porn legal but prostitution isn't?
because they have. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know. That's kind of how to get out of it if you get caught up. Say you're filming porn.
What's the difference between being paid for sex and being paid for sex in front of a camera?
There's no difference.
And finally, if people became more aware of all the unknown double standards in our society, how much would actually change?
If people were actually honest about it, everything would change and everything would probably be fair for most people.
And there we have it, the notorious Coach Greg Adams. Like, follow, share, subscribe.
Thank you. I appreciate you.